this video, we will be discussing the cultural evolution of the vampire. Through the ages, vampires have evolved from their traditional East European folklore to our modern-day romanticized monsters. We will begin with the Eastern vampire by explaining its origins, as well as the characteristics of the vampire, how one would go about destroying one if need be. The vampire finds its origins in Eastern Europe. Countries that believed in vampires in this area included Romania, Bulgaria, Bosnia, Russia, and Serbia, to name a few. Belief in vampires has been described as the result of people of pre-industrial societies attempting to explain the natural, but to them inexplicable, process of death and decomposition. Some ways to detect the presence of an Eastern vampire include exhuming a body to see if it is undecayed and facing downwards. If a corpse is bloated and not stiff, then it is likely a vampire. Eyes open are also a sign of this. A moth leaving the grave during burial is also one of the larger signs of vampirism. If there are dead cattle present or an epidemic in the village, then there is likely a vampire nearby as well. Someone who has died recently and is seen walking around the village is also more than likely a vampire. One can also become a vampire if a cat, bird, or any other animal jumped over the grave during burial. Horses have also been known to detect vampires and will refuse to walk in the direction of or over a vampire's grave. The many ways of killing a vampire that we know today are rooted in Eastern folklore. These methods include the use of garlic, crucifixes, stabbing a vampire with a stake, and burning of the body. But you must burn the body in its entirety or else risk the vampire coming back to life.
White on white, translucent black capes, back on the rack.
Another countermeasure against vampires is to have them count grains of rice or sand. Vampires are known to be compulsive counters. Now we will move to the Western vampire. Belief in the vampire began to change during the Enlightenment era. During this period, people valued rationalism, which made vampires impossible, since a being could not logically be dead and alive at the same time. Vampires would begin to evolve from strictly scary creatures to more sexually charged literary works. These sexy vampires had powers that focused on seducing their victims and/or lovers. These vampires consist of the pale, handsome, and/or beautiful vampires that are famous in the modern era.
I just want to try one thing. Just stay very still. Don't move.
Dracula is one of the most famous of the Western vampires, and was the first to have the characteristic of not seeing his reflection in the mirror. The Western vampire acquired other new traits as well. The transformation of a vampire into a bat is one example. Its origins come from the discovery of the vampire bat in South America during colonial times. Vampires burning in sunlight is also a new addition to vampire mythology. In conclusion, the vampire has gone through an extensive form of evolution, evolving from a monster of our nightmares to the sexual romantic vampires that we know today.